Welcome back to another Action Game Maker tutorial. Today I'm going to show you how to use these simple gauges. So with that said, let's get started. Alright, so here I am in the Basilot Quest sample project, and we're going to just start adding some gauges. So first, where can you add them? Well, you can add them in many different places. You can add them on the actual node themselves of, let's say that you're doing an HP bar, you could do it on that game object itself. So you could go to the player node, for example, and you can add a node, and you can scroll down to where it says a simple gauge and click on it and create it, and then you'll see that you have access to it right here. You can move it above the player, for example, if you wanted it, and then you can make it longer, and this would be the gauge part. You can basically make the size whatever you want here. You have some options over here. You can turn off the percentage or not if you want. You can change the color. So by default here, you can see the color right here. And then by default right here, you can see the color right here. Now, when I start, I haven't really set it up, but you can see that it is using myself as default, and then it's using the HP variable. So if I go to the base settings right here, you can see I can set my HP right here, and that is the HP variable that it's using. Now notice that there is a max HP variable right here. So if we go back down, matter of fact, I'll just bring this up here. We can see that we can use a max variable if we want, and that will give us the actual gauge for it. So we'll use that, and we'll say myself, but this time we'll use the max HP. And this is going to pretty much work here. If we go to playtest this, and I will go run and get hit, and we'll see that the gauge will work. So now because it's on my player, you can see it also flashes, so it does inherit any kind of flash that happens. So maybe you don't want that to happen to the gauge, and maybe you don't want it to follow the player quite like this. Well, we have some options. So the next thing that we can do is, and now that we have it set up, we can just literally copy paste it. So I'm just going to Control X it, and that is, or Control X, and that's just going to cut it. And then let's just go to the scene here, which I believe is called Forest North. And here we are. Now, in this part right here, I don't know if you can see these lines real well, but you can see that this is the viewport area. And so inside this viewport area, I want it to have the gauge, not right here, because that's where the gauge is for this game. I'll just put it more in the middle here. So we can go down to our UI layer right here, and I can hit Control V, and it's going to paste that gauge right in there. And then I'm just going to drag it into the middle, more into the middle here. This will be good right here. So I'm just going to drag it right here, make it a little longer. And the only thing that I need to change on it is that I can't use myself anymore. So I actually have to get the object that it's working off of, which is the player. And then I can just copy this, go to object and paste it, and then hit max HP. So now if I play this one, it should be the same thing, except for it's going to be up here, and it's going to move with the game, and it's going to stay in the same spot. Right. And then I get hit, and boom, it's going to do all that stuff. Right, now if you don't want the percentage to show, again, you can just click this show percentage off, and it will be fine. All right, so there are some other settings right here. For example, the reason it's not green, because the gauge should be green, you know, the HP is definitely equal to the max HP, but it's not showing it in the editor. It updates as soon as we play, but it's not showing in the editor. If you wanted to see that color, you'd have to come down to the value, because the value is right now at 0, and this is as if you had no HP value. And so you can just kind of scale that up, and you can see the green kind of go right there. If you just want a quick visual of what it's going to look like. The other thing that you can do is you can make the step increase different. So for example, because we know this is HP, we know that it's always going to be in 1 values. And so that just makes it to where the step will be nice. So if we go to the value now, it will only step in the 1.0 values. And so that's what it's going to look like more fully. All right. So that could be some things that you want. You can have it round. You can just have a whole bunch of different little settings here. The next thing that I want to show is the theme overrides here. If you go down on these styles, you can see that it comes with these flat boxes for their styles. You can also make it to where it uses a texture as well. So you can do a new style texture right here. But even if we just stay on this flat for right now, we have some other options down here, like a border. You can have a border width here, so I could give it a, let's just go 8, 8, 8, 8. And it might be harder to see right here. And this is also on the background, so let's give us some value here so that we can see what's going on here. Okay, and now with the border right here, we want to, let's give it a different color. So you can see the border that I gave it. Now 8's probably too big, so let's just go, yeah, the 2, 2. And we can blend it. You can see that it was blended or not. And so yeah, those are options right there. We got corners. This corner's right here. If these were all 0, it would be a square. Then you got some margins. You got a shadow. So you can put a size of a shadow right there. And then the offset, you can offset it to where it looks more like a drop shadow, kind of like that. Anti-aliasing, it's on by default. Makes it nice and smooth instead of less kind of like pixelated. Those are always nice. Increase the size of that. So I'll just leave it at 1. And you got margins. And that's really the options for doing your style. Now that's just for the background. You can also do the fill right here. And when you're done, you can even go like this and save as, so that you can reuse this style for your other needs. So for example here on this flat box, this style is just the green. It takes on this color up here basically. That's the only difference. And you could literally go like this. You can also just copy like this, and you can paste it into here as well. Just know that if you are not, or if you're using a save one, that it will share between all the ones that are sharing that resource. Another thing that's kind of interesting is, let's just say that there's nothing in here and you copy this and then you paste it. Even though it doesn't have like a name that you've saved it, what's going to happen is if you make a change in this one, let's just get rid of the shadow. Actually, let's go to size 0. Notice that it now also affected this one. So in order to get away with that, I controlled Z to get the shadows back. In order to get away with that, once you copy a resource like this, you come down here and say make unique. And then when you go back to this one and let's remove the shadow again, you can see that it removed the shadow of this resource, but it didn't touch the next one. So whenever you're copying resources, which this is a resource, whenever you have this kind of a setting, this is a resource. When you click on, all these new kind of things. So whenever you're copying and pasting, they're going to link to the same resource unless you make that new resource unique. Now, the only way that's not true is if you're duplicating from here. So if you duplicate from right here, that is one way where it makes all resources in that scene unique as well. So just some things to think about. But yeah, this is how you can make just a simple gauge. Now, you are not limited to HP gauges. For example, you can use any kind of variable, even ones that you create, they would be added on this list. You can also use system variables as well. You can see here are the ones that were added in this game. Here are the default ones. So yeah, you have a wide variety of how you can do this. You can also change these properties from within a script. So for example, if I control X and I put this back on the player, and then let's move the node right here. Okay, it's a little big, but that's fine. What we can do is in our, as long as I save it, in our script here, we can, just in idle, whatever, we can go to change object property, and we can change a property, and it's on the self, and we're going to select the simple gauge. And we can adjust all of these things as well. Here are some of the offsets, the sizes, the anchor modes, some of the things that we were editing in the inspector. So this is where you could also change this. if you wanted this to be edited somehow in the player's script. So anyway, yeah, that is how you can add a gauge to your game. If there's any questions, you can comment below. Discord forums will get you figured out. That said, I'll see you at the next video.